Retire rich with Bitcoin CAGR. This video, we're going to talk about the power of Bitcoin's compounded annual growth rates and how it can really supercharge your retirement. Whether you guys are holding spot Bitcoin outright, or even if you're investing in some of these other Bitcoin proxies like the Bitcoin ETFs, or even MSTR. At the end of the day, what's powering all of these assets is the compounded annual growth rates of Bitcoin. And we're going to deep dive into this because I don't think a lot of people really understand exactly what's happening, okay? With Bitcoin's CAGR, it can really catch you off guard. So it's really important for us to go through this in depth, to always keep this in the back of your mind whenever you're second doubting yourself about your investment in Bitcoin. Maybe you bought Bitcoin when it was trading at all-time highs and now you're still holding it and you're down a bit. Or maybe you've been sitting on your position and you don't really think you really have that much money. You don't really understand the power of just having 0.01 BTC, 0.1 BTC, a quarter of a BTC, half a BTC, or 1 BTC or more. You don't really understand the power of it because we've never really experienced an asset with this type of compounded annual growth ever. So we're going to talk about it in depth in this video. So like I said, got my green tea here. We're going to just get right into it, guys. Okay, let's first off, we're going to start at casebitcoin.com. Casebitcoin.com is a free website. And on the homepage, it has Bitcoin's CAGR, which is compounded annual growth rate. It gives us a measure of returns compounded annually, right? And I actually have a compounded annual growth calculator on my website. I have two. I have a reverse one and I have a regular CAGR calculator you guys can check out. It's free to use. All you need to do is just go to my website, tarikpierce.com/tools to find these calculators. So you can do kind of this calculation yourself. So we take a look here. Look at the CAGR. So we're going to be looking at three main data points, okay? We're going to be looking at, obviously, we're going to be looking at the 3-year CAGR, the 5-year, and the 10-year number. 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years. Why? Because each Bitcoin cycle is 4 years, okay? So having 1 or 2 years in a CAGR really isn't helpful because it doesn't give time for the halving event to reduce Bitcoin's supply, which is really the main catalyst behind Bitcoin's impressive growth is the Bitcoin halving. Okay, this is what reduces the supply of Bitcoin. It makes it rare versus other assets which don't have this event, right? So gold, when people mine gold, then supply increases. When people, governments and banks issue fiat dollars, i.e. government currencies, the amount explodes. But Bitcoin is like the only asset that I can really think of. The true first asset, obviously there's copycats, Litecoin, things like that, Bitcoin Cash. There's a few copycats out there, but Bitcoin's the first asset that it actually, has its, supply that's issued, daily issue supply every 4 years. And it's been consistent with this halving event. What I mean by consistency is that Bitcoin was the first protocol, was the first cryptocurrency to think of this idea. Okay, so remember all the other cryptocurrencies out there that have halvings are copycats. But Bitcoin is the first, Bitcoin and whoever, Satoshi Nakamoto, whether it's a single person or a group of people, it was the first person to kind of understand that true value lies in scarcity. So whenever something is scarce, it becomes more valuable. Things like time, okay, real estate, land, right? Careers, right? Antiques, right? Antique vehicles, antique collectibles, anything that's finite in supply, right? That's why it's so impressive to play in the NBA. There's only 450 NBA players in the entire world. So out of billions of people, if you make it into a select group of 450 men that play in the NBA, that's extremely rare. This is why NBA players have such high salaries. So we know that scarcity equals value. And that is something that Satoshi built into the Bitcoin protocol. And this is powering a lot of Bitcoin's compounded annual growth rates. Remember that scarcity, because sometimes, even myself included, I've been on, this is my 6th year of my Bitcoin journey, and sometimes I just truly forget how rare Bitcoin. There's only 21 million in total supply. And sometimes you look at your Bitcoin or you look at the price of Bitcoin and you think, oh, you know, it hasn't done anything. This is a waste of time. But the scarcity of Bitcoin drives the power of the CAGR. So now we're going to look at the CAGR of Bitcoin. The 3-year CAGR is 38%. The 5-year CAGR is 61%, and the 10-year CAGR is 83%. So here's what's really interesting. You can see here there's a few outliers, okay? The 2-year CAGR is 81%, right? Then the 7-year is only 39%. This is due to the halving event. It's like when these numbers fall on certain dates, based on the halving, it can look either big or small. So I think it's really best to look at 3-year, 5-year, and 10 years. So 3-year, 38%. 5-year, 61%, 10-year, 83%. These are key data points. We have a nice range of Bitcoin's CAGR from 38% to 83%. And this is my range as well that I have over the next 5 to 10 years. Now, I can't tell you guys, I don't have a crystal ball. So I can't tell you guys exactly what's going to happen, you know, with Bitcoin's price. I don't know, you know, what it's going to be. So what I like to do is I like to use the CAGR and like to plug these numbers into a reverse CAGR calculator to kind of figure out where Bitcoin is going to go. And this will help power your retirement. So I have an interesting calculator on my website. You guys can check it out. Reverse CAGR calculator. I'm going to put the link in the video description below. You guys want to check it out, or you could just go to tariqpierce.com/tools and you'll find it there. So what this does is this allows you to put in any value, a starting value, and then the CAGR, and then how many years. And this will kind of figure out what the future value is. We're going to use this to predict the future value of Bitcoin. So let's go back to these numbers. Okay, so 3-year, 38%, 10 years. So let's use, how about 50%? I think 50% is conservative. I think it's going to grow more than that. But that was the 1-year CAGR. And, you know, between 38, if we're looking at anywhere from 38% to 83%, I think 50 to 60 is a good range. Okay, let's use 60%. How about that? Let's just use the 5-year CAGR, okay? So we're going to plug in the 5-year CAGR. We're going to plug in Bitcoin's price. It's about 95K. Let's throw in 60. Yeah, why not? Because, you know, adoption is going to be exponential. So a lot of people are going to be, you know, the average Joes are going to come onto the Bitcoin network because they're mostly sheep. So when the average Joes come onto the network, they're going to really send the price up extremely high. And that's probably going to happen in the next 5 years or so. Now let's look at Bitcoin for some of you guys out here that want to really retire. So myself, I'm 38, okay, guys. So my retirement horizon, you know, according to when I will be able to withdraw from my retirement accounts without penalties, is like 59 and a half-ish. So that's 20 years. A lot of you guys watching this, I've been looking at my statistics. So most of you guys watching this are between like the age of 25 to 45. But I know you guys holding Bitcoin, you want to retire early and you want to retire rich. So maybe you like your career, you don't necessarily want to retire early, but you definitely want to retire rich because you're going to need a lot of spending power in the future because of inflation. Okay, inflation is going to skyrocket in the future. More on that later. So let's go. How many years here? Let's play with the numbers a little bit. Why not? Let's go retire in. We could do 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years. For some of you young guys watching this, you guys that are just like out of college, okay? A lot of you young Bitcoiners out there. So let's throw it on 3 years, okay? So you put Bitcoin, goes up 60% over 3 years. Bitcoin will be worth about $389,000. That sounds pretty plausible. That sounds realistic, okay? Let's plug in 5 years. How much will Bitcoin be worth? $1 million. So about $1 million a coin by 2030 if the CAGR remains the same. Okay. Now, let's do 10 years at this CAGR. A Bitcoin would be about $10 million if this CAGR remains the same by 2035. $10 million. Now, let's do 20 years. Okay. Bitcoin would be over $1 billion. Maybe that number will go down. I think a lot of people would be on the network by then. So let's take that number down a little bit. Let's say the CAGR gets cut in half in 20 years. So by 2045, Okay, Bitcoin about $79 million. I can see that. I can see that happening because, there are a lot of mega mansions out here that you can buy for $79 million. You can always buy more land, but you can't make more Bitcoin. I mean, you can always build more houses, but you can't make more Bitcoin. So in finite terms, one Bitcoin will be more valuable than the biggest mansion because, right, you just need land to build a mansion. You can build more houses. And then finally, for you really young Bitcoiners out here, let's say by 30 years, Bitcoin's CAGR flat lines to about 25%. Now let's try 30%. About $248 million. Okay, so what are all these numbers saying? What the numbers are playing with is you can see how, even though Bitcoin's price kind of, it kind of chugs along a bit over the short run, up and down, up and down. Over the long run, it can make some really impressive moves. Okay? So, like I said, what I would recommend you guys do is, take a look at Case Bitcoin. Take a look at these CAGR numbers. Pick one if you want to use for the 5-year, something like that. Play around with this calculator to kind of get a future value of what you guys think Bitcoin will be worth. That's like the first step until retiring rich with Bitcoin. You need to kind of figure out where Bitcoin is going to be at in terms of its price when you plan to retire. So we're going to do a standard video here where we're just going to say, how about just 10 years? Because I know a lot of you guys want to retire rich and possibly retire early as well. So let's just say 10 years. So let's move back to our model. 10 years. All right. So that would mean I would basically stop working or wouldn't stop worrying about money at like 48, which is still cool. It's pretty cool. Most people, I'm American, so the average American is probably retired at like 62 or 63. So retiring in your 40s or 30s or even your 50s is you're doing way better than most people. And you retired rich. You're not just retiring like a brokey, barely scraping by, having to live in some like third world country or live in like a dump just to get by. You're actually retiring with a lot of money. You can do what you want to do. If you have kids, you can help your kids, help your grandkids. You can travel. You can live life on your own terms, something that most people aren't able to do in the current fiat system. So, okay. So by 2035, with a 60% CAGR, that means Bitcoin would be worth about $10 million. That's easily realistic, okay? That is a realistic goal for Bitcoin. That can actually happen, okay? This can happen easily simply if just enough people join the network and purchase Bitcoin. So now, $10 million a coin. So now I have another calculator on my site. Okay. The Bitcoin retirement calculator. So this one's a little bit more complex. It's basically just got to figure out how much money you guys want in the future. And then it's going to use Bitcoin's CAGR and everything and kind of figure out what you need to do to get there. So you want to live a decent, let's say you want to live a decent lifestyle. You want to withdraw. You could sell some of your Bitcoin. By then, there'll probably be a lot of crypto lending services where you can borrow against your Bitcoin. So let's say you want to live off, let's say for its starter, I'm from DC, so it's a little bit expensive. So let's say $60,000 a year. 10 years until retirement. Bitcoin CAGR is 60%. And we don't know what inflation is going to be. Let's just leave that at 2%. And your withdrawal rate is 4%. $95,000 Bitcoin. Okay, now take a look at this. So, if you guys wanted to retire, hypothetically, in 10 years, you would need to purchase about 0.17 Bitcoin now. And hold on to it, of course, by 2035. Remember, we did the compound annual growth with 60%. Bitcoin would be worth about $10 million. So 0.17 BTC, you guys are bad at math, would be worth about $1.7 million. And with $1.7 million saved up, you would be able to withdraw, about $73,000 a year, whether you're selling off your Bitcoin slowly or you're simply borrowing against it. $1.7 million is enough money to retire in almost every single country. Okay. Obviously, you're not going to be like a baller, like you're not going to have like Lambos everywhere. But with $1.7 million, okay, I'm from Washington, D.C. You need $60,000 to live in Washington, D.C., okay? So if you have $1.7 million, okay, you nearly have 30 years of earnings saved up. And remember, Bitcoin's still going to be going up over time as it historically has. So it's not like your Bitcoin's just staying stagnant. So with $1.7 million, you have plenty of money retired. If you guys who don't live in an expensive place like Washington, D.C. or New York or Miami or L.A. or whatever you guys live, you can easily, imagine if you took your $1.7 million and moved overseas. You moved to Spain, Portugal, Panama, right? Thailand. Damn, then your money's really stretching. I mean, then you're like, your 1.7 million, in Bitcoin is worth like 17 million. I mean, for some of you young guys out there, if you can get this much Bitcoin, hold on to it for the next 5 to 10 years. You guys wanted to retire. If you retired in the States, you could retire like a king. And if you retired in like a cheaper country or lower cost of living, you could have like 10 wives. So don't underestimate the power of Bitcoin's CAGR. Play around with these calculators. You can find these calculators on my website. This is really happening, guys. Now, it's also going to be the same with the Bitcoin ETFs. And MicroStrategy is probably even more so because MicroStrategy is leveraged Bitcoin. So that $1.7 million that we came out with, a $10 million Bitcoin estimated price by 2035. I mean, you could have even more money if you're invested with MSTR or something like that. But the underlying power of this, the way this really works as a strategy, is simply Bitcoin continues to get more scarce over time. If we take a look here, 90% of the Bitcoin has already been mined. It's kind of funny because it's like 90% of the Bitcoin's already been mined, yet most people don't own any. And I'm pretty sure some of you guys watching this are frustrated. Maybe you have Bitcoin and you're like the only person in your friend circle or your family that has any of it or invests in it. And it's frustrating to know that Bitcoin is going to like make your future so much better, but so many people are just late to the party, struggling with inflation and struggling with cost of living because they just don't understand the power of saving in Bitcoin. But if you guys are watching this, if you clicked on this title, you either already have Bitcoin, already invested in some Bitcoin vehicle like MSTR or the ETFs, or you're curious. So it's good to be curious about this because this is really happening. Now, here's one thing that I really believe is true about Bitcoin that a lot of people don't understand. And that's the fact that in 10 years, in 10 years, if Bitcoin does eventually go to $10 million, you guys are going to see a huge change in the way banking is done. You will have so many ways to generate income or borrow against your Bitcoin. You won't have to sell it. If Bitcoin's $10 million, even if you just have 0.1, I say everyone watching this video, please, please, please. I posted another video, why everything changes after 0.1 Bitcoin. I'm going to put a little info card up here. You guys can check that out. Please, everyone watching this video, please do everything you can to get it to at least 0.1 Bitcoin. Because if Bitcoin hits $10 million by 2035, right, and you have 0.1, you're going to have $1 million. You're a millionaire. You're a legit millionaire. You're not like a real estate millionaire where all your money's in equity in a house that you can't tap without borrowing against it. You're a cash millionaire. 0.1 Bitcoin can get you there in 10 years. That should be the bare minimum goal. That puts you in the top 10% Bitcoiners. You're in the elite Bitcoin. In fact, you could, according to the on-chain data, right, you're basically a top 10% Bitcoiner. We could just pull it up right now. Yeah, so I'll just pull it up real quickly so you guys can see. So if you take a look here, you can see that from 0.1 Bitcoin to 1 Bitcoin, only 8% of wallets. And then there obviously, as the more Bitcoins, fewer and fewer wallets. So just by having 0.1 Bitcoin guarantees you're in the top 10% Bitcoin holders. Top 10% of anything is usually extremely, extremely rich. If you're in the top 10% earners in America, you're likely earning well over 6 figures. You're likely close to being a millionaire. If you're in the top 10%, in the Olympics, how many people, in the Olympics, maybe they have like 30 to 40 people in any event competing. So if you're in the top 10% of people, you're probably going to get a medal. W.E. Du Bois, he talked about the talented 10th. So obviously, Bitcoin's expensive. Okay, it's going to be difficult for you to get 10, 20, 30, 40 Bitcoin. Things like Michael Saylor's doing, having over 500,000 Bitcoin. Come on. That's out of reach for a lot of us. We just waited too late. But everyone watching this video can get to 0.1 Bitcoin. If you can get to 0.1 Bitcoin with the power of Bitcoin's CAGR, you are in the driver's seat to retire freaking rich. I'm not talking about retiring on a small pension. I'm not talking about retiring hoping Social Security can take care of you. I'm not talking about retiring, living off your friends or your relatives or hoping that some organization. No, you will power your own retirement. It's okay for the government to help and stuff like that, but make sure you've got your ducks in line. Make sure you've got your at least 0.1 Bitcoin. So in the next 5 to 10 years, when Bitcoin hits $1 million and $10 million, you're sitting on a fat stack of cash and you can do what you want to do. Now, some of you guys out there, you don't even need to retire. You can just sit back and chill. But, a lot of you guys working jobs you hate, you don't like. Your boss is, an a-hole. Your coworkers are catty and annoying. Your job is wearing your body down. You got knee pain, back pain, headaches. You dread getting out of bed. You need to invest and put some of your money into Bitcoin. Most of the other crap and junk out here that people buy doesn't do anything for you in the long run. Spending money on shoes and clothes and fancy cars is not going to power your retirement. You're just going to have to work longer and longer and longer. So at least get to 0.1 Bitcoin, 1/10 of 1 Bitcoin, right? That should get you there easily, right? That should get you to where you need to be, okay? Now remember, I'm doing these numbers for Washington, D.C. So they say in 10 years, you just need 0.17 Bitcoin. All right, well, let's just lower the numbers. Maybe you don't want to retire in Washington, D.C., okay? Maybe you want to retire in a cheaper country. All right, let's say you want to retire in Thailand. Okay, you guys, you want to get you get out of the United States matrix altogether. You're tired of the high cost of living. You're tired of the feminism. You're tired of, not getting any matches on Tinder. You're tired of, women's lib and all this stuff. Fine. All right. Go to Thailand. How much do you need to live in Thailand in 10 years? Inflation will make it more expensive. You could probably get by on Thailand in 10 years, probably $2,000 a month. So you need $25,000, all right? $25,000, right? Look at that. If you just need $25,000 a year, which is plenty of money to live very well in Thailand, okay? You can live in Thailand off $1,000 a month. So over 2,000 is twice what you need. And remember, this tool is accounting for inflation as well. So let's say in 10 years, you'll need about $30,000 a year to live in Thailand. You only need 0.07 BTC, guys. So like I said, don't underestimate the power of Bitcoin's compounding annual growth. Get to at least 0.1 BTC. That should be the bare minimum. Of course, keep going, have some goals. Try to become a whole coiner. It's rare. Okay, most people, about 2 to 3% of all Bitcoiners are whole coiners. So 97% of you guys watching this do not have 1 Bitcoin. But just realize that everyone starts somewhere, okay? I started in 2019. I invested $20 into Bitcoin. I can tell you, man, those days were tough. I just had my first son. I was about 31 years old. There were times I didn't have $50 in my bank account. I ended up borrowing money for my son's paying for my son's birth at the hospital. I can't tell you how much Bitcoin helped me because I thought I was a smart guy. I went to an Ivy League school, but I was making good money online. I had almost a 6-figure income, but the money was just flying out of the window. I just couldn't understand why. I was like, why am I earning well, but I'm always broke? And then I started to realize that 2019 was like the year where I realized that if at this rate I could never retire, because as I made more money, I had kids to take care of, spending money on them, spending money on myself, trying to have a social life. I couldn't afford it. And I think the changing moment was when I used to carry I had a Chinese gold coin for good luck, 1/10 ounce panda or whatever, and I lost it. And when I lost my gold coin, so I got robbed or something. Someone had stolen my Chinese panda gold coin. I had it in like my wallet or something, and I lost my wallet. I don't remember. I was drunk, and that's when I hit an epiphany, and I said, you know what? What I'm doing is not working. Trying to save government currency for retirement is not working. Trying to save gold is not working. I don't like gold. Gold is stressful to me. I don't want to carry all my wealth on me. I don't want people to be able to take, gold. It's so easy to take. When someone takes your gold, it's gone. It's heavy, okay? You can buy counterfeit gold. There's tons of counterfeit gold out here in circulation. I wanted something that worked. I wanted something that would help me level up fast, okay? I had been working online for over about 10 years. I didn't make six figures. There were, on the online, making money online, your income's inconsistent, but I was doing well. Some years I was doing like 40K a year. Some years I was doing 80K. So anywhere between 40 and 80K, okay? And I was self-employed. I didn't have a boss. So, the way I made money was great. Affiliate marketing, selling products online, blogging, YouTube like I'm doing now. It's great. But I could never save. And then when I discovered Bitcoin in 2019, it's when everything changed. When I realized that I could fast track myself to retirement and make up for all of the mistakes that I made in the past by just saving Bitcoin instead of saving dollars. And that's when everything changed. That's when everything changed. And it's important to, anytime you doubt Bitcoin, anytime you're like, I don't think this is going to work, I better listen to everyone else. Bitcoin's a scam. Bitcoin's a fad. Bitcoin isn't real. Blah, blah, blah. Look at these numbers and play with these calculations. These calculators that I have on my website, okay, TariqPierce.com, these tools on Case Bitcoin and things like that, CoinGlass, this is what keeps me in the game. This is what keeps me in the game with Bitcoin. Constant positive reinforcement. Always remembering why you started this journey. You're not going to have a lot of people to talk about Bitcoin with, okay? Most of the people in your friend circle, most of your coworkers, most of your family members will not own Bitcoin. You are a lone wolf out here, okay? People only get interested in Bitcoin when it's hitting all-time highs. How weird is that? But for you guys out here that are hodling through the bear markets and the bull markets, and you're just saving in Bitcoin, or you're saving in Bitcoin ETFs, or you're holding MSTR, you are a lone wolf. You are weird. You are eccentric. You are not normal. So don't let that lack of familiarity with the modern day society mess up your retirement goals. Get rich with Bitcoin CAGR. Understand that this is happening. Whether the masses are going to be in it or not, doesn't really matter what they do. No one cares. Bitcoin doesn't care about the masses. Bitcoin went from $1 to 100,000. Bitcoin went from $1 to $100,000. Bitcoin's returns over the last 14 years are 2.5 million freaking percent. Bitcoin didn't care that the masses didn't know. It just kept doing block every 10 minutes. Bitcoin just keeps working. Block after block after block after block after block after block. It doesn't care. It just keeps doing its thing. It's working. Bitcoin is productive. Okay? Bitcoin is not lazy. Bitcoin is not shiftless. A lot of you guys like me, sometimes you get lazy. Even me with this YouTube channel. Sometimes I don't upload for a long time. Lazy. But Bitcoin's not lazy. Bitcoin will always work harder than you can. It's been programmed that way. It's designed to work harder than you can. Trust Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been working its butt off for 16 years. Pretty much. Nonstop, every 10 minutes. Can you do that? No. So retire rich with Bitcoin. Retire rich with Bitcoin's CAGR. Retire rich with the power of Bitcoin's nonstop, unstoppable, relentless work ethic. Bitcoin is a monster. Bitcoin blocks mind. Bitcoin is a freaking animal. I'm just going to close this video out showing you guys all the blocks that Bitcoin is mined. Bitcoin is mined over almost 900,000 blocks every 10 minutes, like nonstop. This is the tool that you can use to retire rich. This is the tool that works for everyone, no matter who you are, where you live, or what you do for a living. So that's about it, guys. That's my rant. Yeah. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Study the Bitcoin CAGR. Study it, study it, study it, study it, study it. Use my calculators. Plug in your data. They're free. You guys don't have to pay anything to use these calculators. You play around with them like you like. I'll put the links in the description. Come up with your own goal. Come up with the amount of money that you need for retirement. Reverse engineer everything to figure out how much BTC you need to hold. That would be my advice to you guys, like I said. And worst case scenario, just get at least 0.1 Bitcoin. That way, you know, hey, Bitcoin hits $10 million in 10 years, you got $1 million. You can retire a lot of places with that. So that's all I got until now, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Smash the subscribe button if you like my content. Let me know what you guys think about Bitcoin and retirement. What is your guys' goals? When do you plan to retire? And where do you plan to retire? And if you guys need assistance, you guys can send me an email at tariq@tariqpierce.com. If you guys need some one-on-one consultation to help you guys out, kind of figure out how much Bitcoin you might need to get, kind of an accumulation plan, and potentially an exit strategy for you if you guys wanted to retire rich or get off the 9-to-5 grind earlier than 62 or 63 like the average American. Bitcoin, you don't have to wait that long. And some of you guys out there watching this, if you guys buy Bitcoin now and work until 62, you're going to be like a decamillionaire. So you'll probably just quit the rat race before that happens. So like I said, let me know, reach out to me. You can get my email address. I just mentioned it, or you can come down, get my email from the description below. Send me an email if you want some one-on-one consultation. I'd be happy to help. So that's all I got until next time, guys. Take care.